Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. When you think of natural language processing, the one data source that is used widely is Twitter data. So, the data that is collected from the different tweets, you can perform different tasks in order to understand sentiment for a particular product or to derive insights with respect to how the market is moving for a particular category. All of the insights can be generated from Twitter directly. So, Twitter as a whole is an awesome data source for natural language processing tasks. Extracting Twitter data can be simple and complex. When I say complex, what I mean to say is you will have a subscription model for which you might have to pay some amount. Extracting data from the APIs can also be complicated. So it is here that I came across a really simple process in order to extract Twitter data. And I came across this amazing Python library called as snscrape. So in this video, I'll show you how you can extract Twitter data without any API, without any login credentials. All you require is just this library. Isn't this amazing? So without wasting any further time, let's kickstart the video by importing snscrape. So the way I would install snscrape is pip install -q snscrape. Given that the installation is now done, I'll go forward and import the necessary modules. So for this activity, I require the OS module, the pandas module, and I'll also require the date time module. So that is what I've imported here. One really useful feature of this amazing library is you can select tweets based on a start date and an end date. So that is what I intend to do in the coming part of the video. So for that, I'll basically utilize two dates. One is the end date, which is the current date that I'm recording the video on, and the start date. So start date I'm assuming to be 1st of January 2019. So first let me define the end underscore date variable. So I'm recording the video on 7th of July. You may see the video after a while, but yeah, I'm recording the video on 7th of July. I am also defining the start date, which is 1st January 2019. So that is what I have. And the search term that I intend to search for is my own self, that is Bhavesh Bhatt, data scientist. So I'll define both the variables and I'll run the cell. Now all the background work is done. Now I'll show you the power of this amazing library called as snscrape. So let's go forward. Let me highlight this region of code so that it is more readable. snscrape is basically a command line library. So you can write all the code with respect to extraction of tweets on your command line interface directly. In order to execute snscrape, I'm using os.system and I'll pass in the commands through os.system. So the first command is if I have a search term, so I've already specified the search term, which is Bhavesh Bhatt, data scientist, and I want to extract tweets which contain this particular search term. So what I do essentially is I call the command snscrape. Since is the first argument that I pass. So here it is from date, which is my start date. I enter the next input, which is Twitter -search, and I pass in the search term. So here is where my search term would be filled in. Finally, I'll have the until option, which will contain the end date. So I want to extract tweets from start to end. And I essentially want to store all the results into a text file called as result tweets.txt. Once I execute the first line of code, I'll have all the tweets which contain this particular search term ranging between this start date and this end date saved into a file called as result-tweets.txt. The next piece of code is where I check the size of the file. If essentially I don't find any tweet in that date range for this particular search term, then the counter variable will remain 0. Else, if there is any tweet that is present for this particular search term and this date range, then all of that is read into a data frame df, and I then go forward and count the total number of rows in that data frame df. And lastly, that is what I print out as the number of tweets. So now let us go back and see how this entire execution looks like. So I'll quickly run the cell. So as you can clearly see, for this particular date range and for this particular search term, there are a total of 3 tweets. Now I'm using a Google Colab session. If you're using a local system, then you would have a text file in your local folder itself. Here in this particular session, I have the file that is generated, which is result-tweets.txt. Let me open this for you. As you can clearly see, I have all the tweet URLs which contain this particular search term listed in this particular text file. So this is just for counting. The next step that I'll show you is how you can actually extract the tweets from this particular URL. So let's go forward. Before I execute the script, firstly, I'll define a maximum limit of the total number of tweets that I require. In this case, I'm using a max limit of 100. So I'll have total of 100 tweets displayed for a particular combination of search term as well as start and end date. So let me go forward and run this. Now moving to the actual part of extracting the tweets, the command goes like this. You have snscrape -- format, and we go forward and specify content !R. I define the max results to be equal to 100. So I want only 100 tweets, not more than that. I define the start date. I also have an until date, which is the end date. And one thing that I missed out in between is the Twitter search. So here is where I'll kind of enter the keyword that I want to search for. And whatever output is generated by this command, I want all the tweets to be saved into a text file called as extracted-tweets.txt. So that is what we have. A similar workflow to the previous workflow is what we'll follow again. We'll again check for the size of the file. If the file size is 0, then essentially no tweets are found. If there is any content present in the text file, I'll kind of save it into a variable called as df. And in order to display the results, I'll kind of iterate over every row of the data frame and show you the exact tweet. Let's go back to the main screen to see the output. So these are the 3 tweets which contain Bhavesh Bhatt as well as data scientist. So I can see the third tweet here. It says data scientist Bhavesh Bhatt. So it's doing a great job in terms of extracting the right tweets in the right window as well, the date window that we've set. It's kind of extracting the correct amount of tweets as well. So far we've looked at searching for tweets with respect to a particular search term. The final piece that I want to show you in this particular video is how you can extract tweets from a particular username. So let me quickly unhide the cell. In the first line of code, I define a variable called as user_name, and I specify my own Twitter username, which is _Bhavesh Bhatt. Then I create a command using the snscrape function. So again, I type in snscrape -- format content !R, which is used for extracting the content from the tweet. I specify the max results, which we've set to 100 in the previous example. I specify the start date. I specify the end date using the until command. Instead of using Twitter-search, we'll be using Twitter-user, and I'll pass in my own username here. And all the tweets that are extracted from this particular user would be saved into a text file called as user-tweets.txt. So that is what we have. The next lot of commands are again following the same principle. I check for the size of the file. If it's 0, then there are no tweets. If there is data present in the text file, then I'll read it into a CSV file. I'll iterate over every row in the data frame and I'll display the results. So now let me go forward and run the cell. So as you can clearly see, we have been successful in extracting top 100 tweets from a particular user. So in this case, the user was me. So essentially, I have all my tweets here in one go. I am truly mesmerized with what we can do using this amazing library called as snscrape. And I'm pretty sure once you start playing around with this library, you would make this as a default library to extract tweets from Twitter. So this is something that I wanted to share across in today's video. I hope you found today's video informative. If you do like the content that I create on my channel, it would be super motivating if you can press the subscribe button and also press the bell icon to be notified for amazing videos on data science and machine learning. Thank you so much for watching this video.